Or you feel good about it.
Welcome to our LEA Expenditures WebEx training today. If there are some of you who haven't muted your computers yet, and we can hear some background noise that's occurring in your office, more importantly, we want to keep your conversations in your office confidential and not broadcast statewide. So if you will mute your computers, we'll go ahead and get started.
I don't know how to mute myself.
My name is Momi Tu'ua, and I know many of you, and I'm sure I'm familiar to many of you out there. I am the equity specialist that provides support out in the field for our 504 coordinators and in other areas, Title VI and Title IX. And I'm happy to be here with you. Many of you were surprised that we announced this WebEx training last week, Thursday and Friday, and it was really at the last minute, but taking a pulse of coordinators and the questions that you had in the field, I got a response that, hey, is there any way that we could provide some training regarding the LEA expenditures report? And so this is exclusive to that. We're not talking about 504 plans and procedures. We're strictly talking about the report that is due next month. Some housekeeping items. If you would like for this PowerPoint to be emailed and the LEA expenditure Excel spreadsheet sent to you, please email Amanda Charlesworth. She is providing her email address within this the chat box, and by responding to her, she can go ahead and get that out to you right after our training is over. Also, for some of you are joining us, both your business administrator as well as the 504 coordinator of your district or charter school, but sometimes I see that one of you is able to make it and not the other. Know that we are recording this training and we'll push it out through the Section 504 listserv that will include the PowerPoint as well as the expenditure report. Again, we'll have that bundled package sent out to you through our 504 listserv. So let's go ahead quickly. Many of you have seen my first few slides here, but I'm going to go through it again for those of us who have not attended my training. I'm almost ready to push the wrong button there. So right now, when we look at line item funding for Section 504, we know that there's no funding that comes from the federal government to support the expenditures of our 504 students. And currently there aren't any states that are allocating funds to support their 504 students within that state. But this year, in February, our legislators passed Senate Bill 61 that is looking to allocate funds in support of our 504 students, and that allocation will come in a reimbursement form to the LEAs once they submit their reports to us. And so, as we know, that when laws are made on the Hill by our Utah legislators, they give the powers to USBE for the state board to create rules around those laws, and that's what's happening currently. Here is the language and some excerpts from the law talking about how the Public Education Appropriations Committee, they want collected number of students who qualify for the 504 plan, and then they also want to know the financial impact in providing services to our 504 students. And then with that, our state board passed a new rule, R277753, that speaks to, in support of Senate Bill 61, and how charter schools and districts need to report two things. There's students who are receiving 504 accommodations, the disability category, and then the financial impact to the LEA. So this is written in the board rule. It is requiring that your student information system, so we've got Aspire, we actually have 14 to 16 different student information systems that LEAs have purchased in connection, that connects to our UTREX daily upload here at the state level. And so within our UTREX system here, we have built in added features that where we will be able to gather this data of our 504 students, their entry and exit dates. And in addition to that, the 9 categories articulated within the board rule that you as a 504 coordinator or the principal or school counselor will have to indicate the disability category or categories of each of the 504 students. Now, when we talk about your student information system, your IT people building this capacity in connection to UTREX at our state level, that's going to take some time. And I asked some of you a couple of weeks ago if your student information system has already built the parameters for you to be able to report this, and the answer so far is no. It's building, but it's going to take a while. Some of you use the state-provided SIS, Aspire, and speaking with IT here at the state level, they should have the capacity, the framework built in Aspire for you to report by the end of this month. But we know that there are timelines and deadlines that are occurring to where it's virtually impossible for you to, right now, be able to report all of your 504 students, their disability category, and have that built in your student information system, okay? And so the remedy to that, are people hearing me? It says here, could not reconnect to the device, please try again. I'm okay? Okay, so I'm gonna take this to the side of the screen. I don't know why it's saying that. Are we okay? Okay, I don't know why I'm not able to get to the, oh, here we go. Okay, the second part to this board rule speaks to the expenditures, the cost that is incurred for some of our 504 students, and how that report needs to be submitted through UPIPs. And if you look at this slide here, it's saying that identifying the student, the disability category, the costs incurred, and then you do an upload of this report through UPIPs. Now, I'm making a distinction, and I hope I'm communicating this effectively. There are 2 different reports. One report is done through the student information system, and that's not built yet. So we'll remove that one. The other report will be submitted through UPIPs. That's the report that we're talking about today. It's the spreadsheet of that each LEA needs to submit to USBE, and I'm going to walk those steps through those steps with you right now. Okay, so here are some of the questions that I've had come to me in the field. I'm missing something here. Anyway, the question is, when is the report due? The report that I'm talking to you about today is due November 10th. This report also is due on June 30th, 2018. Okay, so there's one report that I'm asking you to do. due in November so that I can present the number of students on 504 statewide, the number of students according to disability category, and the expenditures statewide according to disability category. That's something that I need to present to the state school board, where they will, upon their approval, send this report to the Hill so that they can make a determination in how much money to allocate for this program. And then starting June 30th, 2018, annually, that's when the report will be due on an annual basis. So this is something special to initiate this cost analysis and allocation from the legislature. Okay. Do I have any questions regarding the November 10th deadline? I wanted to give you the why to this. Why 2 reports this year? Momi, will we have to do this next year, 2 reports, one in November and June? No. Starting June 30th, 2018, and forevermore, unless this rule changes, all reports will be due on June 30th of every year. Any questions? Okay. Another question that came to me is, for this report, do we have to report all students with 504s even though there is no expense incurred to support some of the students' needs? And for the November report, my answer to you is yes. We need to report all students on this spreadsheet. And so many of your students will not have a cost tied to their data or their accommodations.
Got it.
What you will report on are your students, their disability categories, and then their expenditures. If they don't have any, we still include them on this report. And the reason why we need to include them on this November report is because the student information system is not up and running. We need to know the total number of students receiving 504 accommodations. And so this special report that you will be submitting to me will include all of your students with and without expenditures. The second question, or do I have a question with that?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
With the June 30th, with the June 30th deadline, are we expected to have actual costs because accounting books don't actually close until after that?
Give us your best cost analysis or expenditures by June 30th. This report is similar to intensive services in special education. And looking at intensive services for students with IEPs and how the costs are reflected, it's still reflected in a June 30th report that is due. So if you're not sure how to collect the data and how to present it by June 30th, I strongly recommend that you get with your special education coordinator at your LEA to see what that timeline looks like in order to get the best cost data possible. But yes, it will still be due June 30th. Okay. The second question is, where are the different disability categories that I need to declare for each student? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, do I need to stop sharing, Jerry, in order to pull up another screen? No, okay, so I can escape? Okay, sorry about that. So this is what the LEA expenditure report looks like.
You can was that?
Oh, I can, okay.
So hit exit.
This is what your LEA expenditure report Excel sheet looks like, and looking at the 9 different categories, they're located on instructions tab number 1. Tab number 1 gives you an overview of the timeline for this report, the board rule, the different disability categories, and the instructions in how you need to fill out this report. Okay, so in reference to the question, where do I find the 9 disability categories? They're on tab 1 under instructions. The next question is, do I have an option to choose which fiscal year to report? Answer is yes. You can either report your 504 students, their disability categories, and the expenditures from 2016-2017 school year, or you can report on your 504 students, all of your 504 students, starting July 1st through October 31st of this year. So you've got an option, one or the other, not both, okay? Let me move this screen. Do I include principal? Okay, so there's a part of the report that I'm going to go to at this point. Oops. On tab 2, I've had some questions as to how LEAs need to report this part. And really what this does is it divides the cost in delivering 504 services averaged out over the total number of 504 students. Okay, and so it's determining, Momi, how do we determine the overall costs? We've broken it down into different categories. The total salary and benefit costs in managing Section 504 plans. And then there's another line that says total salary and benefit costs of Section 504 paraprofessionals providing service in the general education classroom. Now, this does not include paraprofessionals who are providing services for students with IEPs. We want to make a distinct separation. So if we're hiring a paraprofessional under 504 accommodations, it's their salary or wages that are included here. Let me back up here. The total salary and benefit cost of Section 504 paraprofessionals, this is in a classroom or an overall setting, not tied specifically to one student. Some of our schools are designed to help our students with disabilities. And so a few LEAs may qualify in reporting the amount here to be able to include it as an average cost over all students receiving 504 accommodations. Many of the LEAs are not going to qualify or are not going to be able to put an amount here on column A, row 5. But then when we go to column A, row 6, where it says other expenditures associated with 504 administrative staff, that is directly tied to the 504 coordinator of the LEA. If it is that it is your sole responsibility to oversee 504s in your LEA, then you can include your salary and benefits. But if it is that you have other duties that you oversee, then a percentage congruent to the services that you provide will be included on this line. That would also include your staff support as well, a percentage of that. And then overall, what this will do, and here's an example. Say there's 100 students, we'll look at salary and benefit costs we'll look at this, and then just, these are just some round numbers here. Then we see here that an automatic calculation over 100 students is $700 per student. There are built-in formulas that are reflected in the third tab under student accommodation costs, and you can see here now the average administrative cost per student. Okay.
Is now a good time for questions?
Yes.
My name's Keith Powers at Freedom Academy. Yes, we're lucky.
Yes, Keith.
We do have approximately 20, 25 504 students, but we do not have a great deal of expenditures other than the teacher's salary, and I'm hearing that I need to get a percentage of what their salary is based on how many 504 students they have in a particular class. That's one question.
Okay, can I answer that and make clarification for that one? We don't include teachers and site administrators. So where you're at a charter school, it would not include the teacher in the classroom. It would include the 504 coordinator of your charter school.
Well, that's me.
And
I'm also the guidance counselor.
Right, and so a portion of your salary would be included on tab 2 of the costs.
So a
But
percentage
for the
of my
teachers, it's not
salary.
broken down. It would include a portion of your salary if you are the one that oversees all 504s at your LEA, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then you had a second question, Keith?
I think you answered what my concerns were.
So in this slide here where it says, do I include principal, teacher, counselor hours as part of the cost for managing 504 plans? The answer is no. But Keith, for you, some of us in our schools, we're a school counselor and a 504 coordinator. So if you are the designated 504 coordinator, then yes, regardless of your other role, you would count a portion of your salary in this cost. Okay.
This is Keith again. Would that be based on the total number of students or the number of hours that I serve as 504 coordinator?
It's not number of hours, it's a percentage of your salary.
Based on what?
It's a decision that you will make with or should make with your administrator there. Because there's definitely a portion of your time where you're a school counselor. So what is your designated time? It's a percentage that
number of hours
you can designate
per week.
If that's the way you want to calculate it, you tie those hours to a percentage and take that from your salary and include that in the cost.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so going back to the report and going to tab 3, student accommodations costs.
We have a question about paras over here at Beehive Academy.
Okay. We have a question.
Yeah, our paraeducators are special education paraeducators. We don't have any that are specific to 504s, but when we have a 504 student in the classroom, they assist them also. So how do we figure out their pay?
That I guess you would have to look at the number of hours that that paraprofessional would provide direct services to the 504 student and quantify it that way. Now, if it's something in passing where they're intervening and providing supports for a minute or two, you know, I'm not sure how you would be able to quantify that. And so if that paraeducator's full salary or pay is coming from special ed, that crossover in providing supports to the student with 504s, it needs to be better clarified, because if you're going to say for 3 hours where this paraeducator is providing supports to IEP students, but for a half an hour overall within the classroom setting, this paraeducator is providing support to the 504 student, then that declaration can be made on this 504 report, but you need to remember to take that cost off of the IEP services provided in that classroom so that we're not double dipping. That's the best way I can see in providing that division and not double counting the cost on either end.
Okay, thank you.
Now, you know, these questions are quite unique, right? And I need to thank you. I need to take a pause here and thank you for going through this process and learning as to how we can best provide an accurate report. My second slide of this presentation was that there's no other state that's doing this. There's no other record that we can fall back on best practices. And so you are providing me with these questions, and along with that, clarity, not only for myself, but for other LEAs in the field. So please keep those questions coming, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Going back to tab 3 of the student accommodations cost, I've given you an example in purple where a SSID is given in the column A, then a grade, the report that's being used, it's either the July 2017 through October 31st report that's used, or the 2016-17 year that is used. It's one or the other, can't be both. And then the designated disability category is noted here, and then the average administrative cost per student was already calculated on tab 2 in overall costs and data, and then the costs were inputted by column and category for this student. And then the overall cost is, in this example, $18,756. And then there's a calculation here of 150% threshold that we put here. But that doesn't mean that that's where it's going to be. We haven't written a rule yet, but this is following another sort of model in specialized instruction, or not specialized instruction, intensive services. And then it shows the amount exceeding that 150% threshold. So that's just an example and a walkthrough on how you would report each of your students on each of these rows, regardless, well, including students that have no costs tied to their services. Do I have any questions about this form? Okay. It looks like I don't have any questions about this form. There are certain columns that are locked where you can't input an amount. That's locked on purpose, so it doesn't mess up your report. And so everything in green, you're not able to change. Dark green, that is, okay? Okay, let's go back to my PowerPoint. How do I submit this report? When we talk about privacy, meeting data privacy standards, we want to ensure that none of this data is sent electronically through a mechanism where privacy can be breached. And this is so important to us that it was written in board rule. When you send this report, you need to send it through UPIPS, UPIPS, the Utah Program Improvement Planning System for Special Education. I will walk you through step by step in how you submit that report through UPIPS. But please, please do not email the report to me. By emailing it, it's not a secure way from your LEA to me to ensure that data privacy piece of all of our students. Yes.
You do have one online question.
Okay.
It says, so for example, if we have an autistic student and all of their speech therapy has already been attributed to special ed, would we only record expenses over and above special ed that were only related to 504 and not an IEP?
Okay, so this person is asking a question about an IEP student, and the student also has 504 needs. No cost of that student can be reported on this LEA expenditures report. 504 needs for IEP students are already pulling funds through special education. So we won't separate, you cannot separate the two. An IEP student with 504 accommodations included still are funded under special education and cannot be funded through this program. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Now, I strongly recommend that you get a hold of your special education coordinator, because your coordinator at your site has access to UPIPS and they can create an account for you. Because of the sensitivity of the data, they can verify that yes, you are the 504 coordinator at the school or at the LEA, the district or charter school, and then they can create an account on UPIPS for you. Now, if for some reason your coordinator does not have the capacity to create an account for you on UPIPS, you can also contact Emily, by the way, here at USBE to help you create your account. At the bottom of this PowerPoint, you can see her email address, emily.bytheway@schools.utah.gov is her email, or you can call her at 801-538-7936. Again, first, we'd like for you to go to your special education coordinator to have that person create your account. But if that person is not able to do it, please contact Emily, by the way, here, and she will verify that you are the 504 coordinator at your site, and then create the username and password for you on UPIPS. Okay, going to the next screen. So once you've created the account, let me move that up here, you will log in with your username and password. And once you've logged in, you're going to see this screen with the tabs up top. and you'll click on document storage. When you've clicked on document storage, you will see this screen, and the screen will actually have multiple reports that your school has uploaded into UPIPS. At the very bottom left part of the screen, there's a link that says Add LEA Document. You will click on that link, and it kind of looks like this. It's a little blurry, but here it is. And then with any upload, the screen will look like this. This should look familiar to us, right? Any upload that we do through Google or an email or a system. You click on Choose File, and then you upload that file to your account, save, and then we are able to pick up the report here at USBE from your account. Okay, so that's a secure mechanism that you're able to send, and we're able to receive the report. Do you have any questions about creating an account, going to the right tab on the website, as well as uploading the document? Any questions? I would like for you to, if you could please do this, rename your report reflecting your district's name or your charter school's name. I'm going to get over 130-something reports coming in. If you could do this on your end, rename your document to your district name or your charter school name. When I pull it off of UPIPS, it's one and done, and I'm able to put it into my file without having to retitle it. Thank you. Okay. So here again is our timeline, and this is, we're drawing to the end, the conclusion of this presentation. If you have any additional questions, I will entertain them in just a couple of minutes. Wanted to give you the timeline again. We're at the November 10th deadline. I will be reporting what you have given me to the state. And where you might feel that your data is insignificant because you may have just a few students, especially at your charter schools, I'm here to tell you that your data is important. It's a reflection of your students. And when we aggregate the data statewide, that shows our legislature the impact of the accommodations that you are providing to your students in your school, as well as the costs that are tied to some of your students. So yes, every student matters in this report, and I thank you for gathering that data. And I know it, for this time especially, it is tedious for some of our LEAs that have quite a few 504 students. After the December presentation to the state board, then the board will report to the Legislative Education Appropriations Committee in January, and then in February, legislature will determine an allocated cost that will start the program so that we, USBE, can reimburse the funds back to you. In April or May, I anticipate that the Utah State Board of Education will create a rule regarding the reimbursement process. And I will build training around that rule when it is created. June 30th is our famous hard stop date for every year that the LEA expenditure report will be due. I anticipate that July 2018, I will provide the training, especially to the newly created rule that will occur next year in March or April. And then from that point on, again, June 30th will be the deadline where I'll pull this information of expenditures. Now, some of you might have the question, what about UTREX and our submission through our student information system? We will be able to pull that information at will at any point in time throughout the school year or throughout the year. So that will be an automatic upload on your part and then extraction on our part here at the state level. So that part you won't need to worry about submitting to us.
Okay, we have one online comment so far.
Okay.
It says, is there any leeway on the November 10th deadline? My RS 504 coordinator thought this were for our students thought this was for our students who possibly met the threshold to find out. I now need time to gather the data on all students.
If you have that question, I want to say that the hard date has to still be November 10th. The timeline in preparing the report, what happens is we give the data and the report to the school board before they meet at the beginning of December. So they have to have in hand a reflection of the students and disability categories and the costs in hand by the 15th of November so that they can give a response to our presentation at the beginning of December. But that person who's asking the question, if you could give me a call, we can process some things, but the hard date still needs to be November 10th. Any other questions?
Not so far, I'm just sharing your phone number back.
My email address is provided here on this last slide. I didn't include my phone number, but here it is. It's 801-538-7828. And I believe Amanda is including that in the chat box as well. Okay, there's another question that's coming through. In the meantime, I wanted to you're probably here at this meeting because you are part of the 504 coordinator listserv. There might be others in your LEA that might need to join the listserv. You can pass that information on to them. That's right here, so that they can access my notifications going out statewide.
Okay.
Question.
A little more clarification on who we count in the costs. I am our district's 504 coordinator, so I understand that a portion of my salary would be included, but what about individual principals in all the buildings? They are the ones that write and manage the 504 plans in their individual buildings. Am I able to count their time and costs somewhere? From what you said earlier, it sounds like their costs are not included.
That is correct. Their costs are not included. At the site level, our principals and our school counselors and teachers, they are not included in this report. Okay, again, it is, I'm trying to look for the slide, but it is, if we did that, then we're showing, we're double dipping in their salary that they're receiving versus the reimbursement that we are allocating back to LEAs. So we cannot include both of those.
We have a question at Beehive.
Yes.
So you said that site administrators, now is that going to go into effect for a charter? We are the district and the site.
Right. So for a charter school, if you are a school counselor and a 504 coordinator, the 504 coordinator is where you can extract the percentage of a coordinator's salary due to the number of hours they contribute on average. You can put that into a percentage and report that. As long as you're the 504, the designated, every LEA has to have one 504 coordinator. So the designated 504 coordinator is the only one whose salary or percentage of his or her salary that can be reflected in this report.
How does that work if the 504 coordinator and the SPED director are the same?
And this is new territory that we're treading, right? And so it would be your estimate, your best estimate as to if you're looking at, if you're looking at a day's worth of your time or a week's worth of your time, how much of your time is dedicated to 504 specific duties, and then you take that percentage and match it with your salary.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, we do have.
Okay.
It says, I am both a special ed and 504. A percentage of my salary is paid from the general fund to cover my time spent on 504.
That's the part where if that the funds are being extracted from general education funds, we still want to see what that looks like. So go ahead and report that portion on this report, on tab 2, right? Okay.
Okay.
Is there another one?
Not so far.
Okay. You sure? I thought I saw something up here. Was it Gail?
Oh, it is. Okay.
Okay.
So when the money is reimbursed, do we put it all back into those funds?
So at that point, you want to, that would be your 504 funds that you would use from that point on, right? Any 504 services that incur expenditures. There are some districts and charter schools whose school board has allocated line item funding for 504 students. The majority of the LEAs don't do that. So this, in essence, the reimbursement would be the funds from where you will draw to provide services for the following year's students.
Okay, a follow-up. It says, however, if my related services under 504 is paid specifically from special ed, their salary cannot be counted? Is that correct?
Okay, so the question, once you bring up special education and costs with that, all of the costs, including related services, are not included in this report. They are separate and they are counted under special education costs and funding. So any special ed services cannot be reported on this spreadsheet.
Another one is, where can we access the recording once we're done here?
You will be able to access this recording once we get the link from Jerry Record. I will push it out on the 504 coordinators listserv. The link, the LEA expenditures spreadsheet report, as well as the PowerPoint. So I'm thinking in a day, maybe less, we'll get this out to you. Please let your business administrators know about the recording so that they can review it as well. And then again, last reminder, get with your special ed coordinator to create your UPIPS account.
We do have one more comment, Melanie.
Okay.
This person was having a hard time with the chat, so we're a little behind, I think,
Okay.
on this particular one. It says, to clarify, if a student has an IEP, they are not to be included in this 504 report. This report is for students that have 504 plans only. Is that correct?
That is correct. Students with 504 plans only are included in this report. No student that is receiving IEP services is included in this report. I think I see another question here. Oops. Do you see that? There's something that
From
popped up
Katina?
here.
That was the one I just read to you. Let's see.
I thought I saw the word accurately in the message. It's 3 or 4 lines long. Okay. Well, that concludes our training for today. I'm happy that you could join us, and we'll get this out to you. Thank you so much for joining me and helping us learn this process together. Please email me if you have additional questions. We'll get this information out to you, this recording, the report, as well as the PowerPoint to this training. Thanks so much.